Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. So something a little bit different for today's video. I just want to talk about a few lesser known British movies, as well as an actress who you may not know much about because she only made a handful of movies, and in fact she stopped working in film in 1963, although she's still very much around and has been involved in lots of different projects since leaving film. So yeah, I love it when I just stumble across a movie, watch it, enjoy it, and then realize a few things about it that link in with other interests that I have, and then that sends me down a rabbit hole. So that's why today I'm here going to be talking about an actress and a model from the 60s called Christina Gregg, and a few of her films. So Christina, like I say, she was a model in the 60s and made a handful of movies until she stopped working in film in 1963. Her last screen appearance actually was alongside Roger Moore in The Saint. But yeah, a few films that she did before then, but the reason she stopped making films in 1963, it seems, was because it then became a bit of a juggling act in terms of doing modelling, acting, being involved in a marriage and raising children. So the acting had to go. But Christina, it seems, has been involved since her acting career finished in lots of other different projects. So thanks in part to her modelling career, she's maintained a healthy lifestyle and has promoted that throughout her life. So she's done books, for instance. She did one called Beauty My Way. She did a record called Music and Motion, and she's also been involved in lots of different sort of fundraising projects and charity work. Some of that's been associated with the Globe Theatre in London, and she's set up organisations in Canada and in London. She moved to Canada in the 1980s. But yeah, so that charity work and fundraising work involved her sort of meeting and working with Christopher Plummer and Sam Wanamaker. And very much today, she has her own YouTube channel called Senior Beauty My Way, and she continues to promote good health and health tips that she has established throughout her life. So she talks very openly nowadays about issues that are affecting seniors. So that can be on all kinds of subjects that include macular degeneration, vitamins, and other health issues, even constipation. But yeah, quite a fascinating lady, great positivity to her. Certainly go and check out her YouTube channel. But yeah, let's just dive into a few of the movies that she made, because like I say, they're lesser known movies, but they're all quite interesting ones. So in terms of her acting career, yeah, she was only in about 7 movies, and I've only been able to track down about 4 of those on YouTube and Tubi. But yeah, I just want to sort of run through those. So the first movie that I watched is one called The Break from 1962, and this one's directed by Lance Comfort, and it was written by Pip and Jane Baker, who went on to write a few episodes of Doctor Who. But yeah, this is quite a convoluted kind of story, this one, but it's a bit of fun. Basically, we've got a escaped convict who goes on the run and ends up going to an isolated hotel where he's due to meet up with his sister, played by Christina Gregg, and they then have an arrangement to get out of the country. But whilst they're holed up in this hotel, they're also there with a person who seems to be an ex-policeman and also a novelist. And once we get into the drama on this story, it ends up that everyone's got a bit of a twist to their character. Things aren't quite what they seem. We've got the hotel owner who's doing some smuggling. The ex-policeman isn't actually on the trail of the convict. He's actually there checking on the novelist who might be having an extramarital affair, etc., etc. But everyone gets confused with what each person's motive is, and so it all becomes quite a fun little thriller. There's some murders involved and some chases. Really good jeep chase actually throughout Dartmoor. So yeah, that's quite exciting. The film certainly opens up with a really exciting sequence of events where the main convict makes his escape. So yeah, all good fun, and yeah, definitely Christina Gregg caught my eye in this one. You first see her sitting in the back of a car, just sitting in a white fur coat with the white fur up around her collar, and she has a very sort of striking presence to her. So yeah, quite an interesting role for her in this film, playing this sister who's not quite sure exactly what is going on and what the motives are of the people around her. But yeah, an enjoyable little thriller. So yeah, it's directed by Lance Comfort, as I say, and his name strikes me because I've seen a film of his before that I like, that it's called Tomorrow at 10 from 1963, actually the film he made after the break. And the reason I like that film, which is a thriller involving a kidnapping and a bomb threat, is that it stars Robert Shaw just before he went to star in From Russia with Love and gained fame that way. And he also gets into a fight in this film with the actor Alec Clunes. And Alec Clunes is the father of Martin Clunes. So I find that quite amusing, that Robert Shaw was in a fight with him. And then also the thing I like about this film, which is controversial nowadays, is that the bomb device is hidden within a rag doll. And the rag doll, it's called a gollywog. And these were really popular dolls back in the sort of 60s and even into the 70s, and I actually had a rag doll of this type when I was a kid. So yeah, they're not popular at all nowadays, and controversial because of the name, but yeah, it's quite interesting nonetheless to see such a doll featured in this film. Now, as it turns out, Christina Gregg did work with director Lance Comfort before the break in another film, and it was her first starring role, and that was in Rag Doll from 1961. And this is quite a good, effective little drama as well. So she plays a daughter here of an alcoholic stepfather, played by Patrick McGee, and he owns a bar and seems to just turn a blind eye to his patrons making sexual advances towards her, and so she decides she's had enough of that and decides to get out and flee to London. The problem there is that things don't really go too much better for her because she's a little bit naive and she gets involved with a singer at a nightclub who's got a bit of a bad boy reputation. And now this singer is played by Jess Conrad, who did have a pop career back then, and he sings one song in the movie, accompanied by the Dave Clark Five. But yeah, Jess Conrad actually is in a film that I've talked about when I did a tribute to the films of Sidney J. Furie. He's in a film there called The Boys, which is a really, really excellent courtroom drama thriller made by Sidney J. Furie. So yeah, check out that previous video if you haven't seen it already. But yeah, this is, like I say, it's quite an effective drama. Again, the script isn't great, but yeah, it's perfectly watchable. So yeah, quite a good little film. Now, also in 1961, Christina Gregg makes another film, not so much of a starring role in this, although she's certainly got a significant character, because this film is called Two Wives at One Wedding. And in this film, she stars alongside Gordon Jackson, and they play a married couple who literally just get married, and on the day of their marriage, another lady turns up and announces that actually she's already married to Gordon Jackson's character and that she was a nurse who nursed him back to health during the war, but he has no recollection of that because he had memory loss. So for me, an interesting thing about Two Wives at One Wedding is that it's written by Brian Clemens. So think for a moment, Brian Clemens, Gordon Jackson. Ah, yes. 16 years after this film, Brian Clemens wrote the hit TV show The Professionals, which gave Gordon Jackson a starring role there as George Cowley. So excellent series. That's certainly one I watched a lot when I was a kid. But yeah, Brian Clemens, absolutely terrific writer. So he's been involved in so many projects. As well as creating The Professionals, he also created this series Thriller. He wrote and directed Captain Kronos, Vampire Hunter. He wrote the script for Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde. He did the script for The Golden Voyage of Sinbad. And he was scriptwriter on two films I really enjoy, See No Evil, which you can get through Indicator, and Soon the Darkness. This is a Kino Lorber release. Absolutely love both of these films. Both of these films, actually, they complement each other really well, and they're the kind of movies which they have improbable elements to them, but they're just such fun thrillers. I absolutely love both of these. But for me, the most fascinating film in Christina Gregg's short film career is one from 1962, and I really do think it's a film that should be more widely known. And it's a film called Don't Talk to Strange Men, directed by Pat Jackson, who was a director who started off with documentary features and who was also involved in doing one segment of the 3 stories that were in the film Encore, which was an adaptation of W. Somerset Maugham stories. But yeah, Don't Talk to Strange Men is quite a fascinating one. So what we have here, and it's Christina Gregg very much in a starring role in this one. So she would have been about 22 at the time, I think, but playing quite a naive 16-year-old. And basically she's living in Buckinghamshire, it seems. I don't know if they actually name the location in the film, but it's certainly filmed in Fulmer in Buckinghamshire. So she's in this sort of countryside location, and she goes down a country lane to catch her bus, and there's a phone box by the bus stop, and this phone box rings and she answers the call, and then we get into this drama where basically she is being groomed by this mysterious man who just wants to get more information about her and who may be a sexual predator. So really quite a fascinating film for the 60s, and it actually fits really well alongside the film that has now thankfully become better known due to Indicator releasing it, and it's the Hammer film Never Take Sweets from a Stranger. And I really do think that both of these films should be seen together, if you like. Hammer made an absolutely brave decision here in doing this film, which is about child sex abuse. And it's really one of Hammer's best movies in terms of how it's produced, written, directed, and the acting that's in it. Absolutely great movie. And the link, if you like, is that if anyone has seen this film, Never Take Sweets from a Stranger, or Never Take Candy from a Stranger, if you've watched the US version, the young girl that features in this is an actress called Janina Fay. And it's so memorable when you first hear her telling her parents just quite innocently about what's happened to her during her day. But yeah, so that actress, Janina Fay is also in Don't Talk to Strange Men, except in this film she's playing the younger sister of Christina Gregg's character. But a really good performance from her in that film as well. And actually, if you again, going back to Never Take Sweets from a Stranger, if you have got this release, do pay attention to the extras that are on there, because there's a really nice interview with Janina Fay recorded on here, where she talks about some of her acting experience. So definitely worth a look. But absolutely, I would say Don't Talk to Strange Men is the most significant and most important film that Christina Gregg made. And like I say, tackling those kinds of themes back in the 60s, not an easy theme to talk about, this kind of grooming thing, sexual predator. And then, like I say, Hammer doing it as well with, the sexual abuse of a young child. And actually, just digressing for a moment, there's another film that I would recommend along the sexual abuse side of things. Not that I really want to get into that kind of thing, but there's a great movie as well called Personal Affair, which stars Glynis Johns and Gene Tierney, and that looks at things a little bit differently, where you've got Glynis Johns playing a young girl at school who it seems is infatuated with her teacher, who is married to Gene Tierney's character, played by Leo Jen, and she goes missing, and it then becomes a kind of a witch hunt, if you like, and all the suspicions fall on Leo Jen's teacher character, that he may have done away with her and that he was, involved in sort of sexual abuse of her. So there's all this sort of suspicions arise. So again, falling into that kind of theme, if you like, it's again, it approaches things differently, but that's a really good film as well, and underseen, I would say. Anyway, this isn't going to be a video about sexual predators, but those are just the 3 films which I think are quite important. So just moving away now onto the films of Christina Gregg that I haven't seen. So she started her films in a film called cover girl killer from 1959. And suitably, I suppose, considering she was a model, this is a film about a serial killer who was bumping off models. And the serial killer in that film was played by Harry H. Corbett, best known for playing Harry Steptoe in Steptoe and Son. And then in 1961, she makes a film called Fate Takes a Hand, which has quite an interesting story. This one, again, is written by Brian Clemens, and the lead actor in this one is Ronald Howard, who is the son of Leslie Howard. And I like Ronald Howard. For me, he makes a really good Sherlock Holmes that was in a US TV series, Little Scene. But yeah, the story of Fate Takes a Hand seems to involve stolen mail and the recovery of stolen mail 15 years after it was stolen. And then we've got a newspaper man and a post office security officer who then try and sort of track down the people that this mail was intended for, and then how it may affect their lives all this time afterwards. So sounds quite an interesting story, but yeah, I can't track that one down. And then the final film that she made in 1963, and it seems to be a small role, was in a film actually directed by Roger Corman, who sadly has just passed away. The film was called The Young Racers, and it concerned a former race car driver turned writer who wants to expose the ruthlessness and womanizing of an up-and-coming race driver, but I think comes to sort of admire him along the way. So yeah, I haven't seen this one. Sounds quite interesting, and interestingly enough as well, it seems that the set that was used for Young Racers, Roger Corman agreed for Francis Ford Coppola to use it as well for the filming of his first film, Dementia 13. Okay, so that's just me rambling on there about a few British films from the 60s. Let me know if you have seen any of these films. I would be interested to know. And like I say, this is just, in some small way, a tribute to Christina Gregg, who very much continues to be supporting her lifestyle and health. And she does have her own YouTube channel, Senior Beauty My Way. So yeah, check that out. Anyway, let me know your thoughts, your comments. I always look forward to reading those. Thanks very much for joining me on this one. I hope to see you again. All the best to you. Bye-bye.